Hi, my colleagues and classmates. It is week 4. I am presenting Thomas Aquinas. This is a picture of Thomas Aquinas. The first thing is the importance of the Thomas Aquinas. He was Italian Dominican theologian. Sometimes it's called St. Thomas Aquinas. Was one of the most influential medieval thinkers of the scholasticism and the father of the Thomistic school of theology. Thomas Aquinas has brilliant ways of methodological of the harmonizing about the faith and the reason in the history of the past and the present and the future. Thomas Aquinas' influence changed a lot of world theologians. Thomas' work was concerned with Christian revolutions, which is giving him an excellent opportunity to be a great philosopher. Now, the life of Thomas Aquinas. Thomas was son of the Ladifor, Count of Aquitaine. He was born in 1224 to 1225 in Rakseka, Italy, near Aquina, in the kingdom of Silesia. Thomas has 8 siblings, and he was the youngest child. His mother was Teresa. Thomas' family members were descendants of Emperor Frederick I and Henry, and they were considered to be a low noble or nobility. Thomas Aquinas entered into Mentor Cassio, where his study begins. He was sent to the empire of the Mentor Cassio to train among the Benedict monks when he was just 5 or 6 years old. The life of Thomas Aquinas continues. Thomas' life was affected by war between the Pope Gregory, and the Emperor Frederick II. The monasteries became a battle seat. Then Thomas was transferred by his family to the University of Naples. Thomas then studied Aristotle, Averroes, and the Armenians, all of whom would influence his theologian philosophy. Scholasticism. Thomas' theology is part of the scholasticism in the 13th century, which required to explain the Catholic theology through reason. This emphasis on observing the natural world began a movement in which, ironically, would eventually reject the speculative thinking about the God as infinity. The movement first during the Renaissance. The Renaissance was characterized by the fascination of this world and the strain for speculative metaphysics. Thomas' basic fact about the Thomistic philosophy. Thomas was able to integrate Aristotle with Christianity. He introduced the natural theology, which was used to articulate truth of revelation, that is the Bible, the church. Thomas says that everything is order in a hierarchy with God. That also says that God is author of everything, and everything was directed to Him or to God. Dominican orders. Thomas wanted to join the Dominican orders, but his parents did not approve of it. The Dominicans sent Thomas to Paris to prevent his parents interfere to his choice. On his way to Paris, Thomas was seized by his brother and sent back to the castle of Monaco, and he was held as prisoner for 2 years. Then he go back to Paris. The Dominican orders were identified with an expanding papacy as its experimental with a new form of the controlling, including a new inward crusade. Sometimes care for the poor, that's the thing about it. Thomas was put on less direct political track, but he will be a theologian who trained preachers rather than himself. Thomas Aquinas. There are many major works of Thomas, but I chose only a few. One, Summa Contra Gentiles, and 2, Summa Theologia. It also known as a Summa Gentilis. The Summa Gentilis was written to explain and defend the Christian truth in hostile situations against the unbelievers. This describes the article of Christians' beliefs accurately. The Bible was written to aid the missionaries in explain Christian religion and defend it against the Muslims and Jews. Summa Theologia divided into 3 parts: structure, scope, and purpose. The matter of time, I cannot go all over this, but in my study I find both summas covers roughly the same ground of God, creation, angels, man, law, and grace, incarnation, and sacraments. The main difference between them, the 2 summas, was that the Summa of Gentile written for the beginners, meanwhile the Summa of Gentile is a sort of apologetic manual with an emphasis on religious epistemology. Thomas was a philosopher and he was a theologian. Most people are not philosophers. Also, many theologians are not philosophers. Analysis. Thomas adopted the Aristotelical principle and concepts. He attempted to explain the origin and operation of the entire universe. He never doubted about the truth of the tenets of his faith. The Summa Theologiae derived from the Thomas' personal beliefs that were the very significant portion of the theology. His writings were not only as philosophy, who is interested in the pursuit of truth, but his writings primarily as a Catholic who convinced that the salvation of human beings is at stake. He uses philosophical concepts and vocabularies to examine God's existence and the nature of our limitations as human beings. This is a work citations. If you have more interest to know about the Thomas, you can consult these websites and some readings. It is interesting to know a lot about the Thomas Aquinas. Meanwhile, there's a lot of work to be done. The nature of this assignment, we cannot go too deep into the Thomas Aquinas works one by one, but this is a general overview of the Thomas Aquinas in the medieval history. Thank you. See you in class.